Hey everyone, it's Sandra Sherman from Guitarversum, and today I want to share with you the best piece of advice I ever got as a jazz musician. It's something that completely changed how I listen to music and as a result, how I play. I call it selective listening, and the idea came from an unexpected conversation with a fellow student. So here's the story. Back when I was studying jazz at the conservatory, I was still kind of an outsider to jazz. I actually came from a funk, blues, and pop background. And in the beginning, jazz was just something I got into because I was bored of pentatonic scales and wanted a challenge. And since Vienna in the 90s basically just offered jazz or classical music to study seriously with a degree, I went with jazz. But, and I'm being totally honest, I didn't really listen to jazz at first. I liked playing it because it was technically demanding. But as for sitting down and listening to jazz for pleasure, not so much. Then life happened. I ran out of money and had to take a break. 4 years between my first and my second university degrees. And in those 4 years, something amazing happened. I started to really listen to jazz. Not just hear it, but listen. And over time, I found myself becoming more curious. So when I returned to my studies, I was already in a different mindset. And that's when Georg, this bass player I studied with, told me something that flipped a switch in my brain. He said he would listen to the same record several times, but each time he'd focus on a different instrument. One pass just for the melody, one for the drums, one for the bass, and one for the piano or guitar. He called it selective listening. When you do that, when you really tune into each instrument, you start to understand what's going on. You start to internalize the phrasing, the timing, the feel. It goes straight into your oral memory, your hearing memory, I guess you'd call it. And your playing naturally gets better, because you're not just copying finger positions anymore. You're absorbing the language. I remember that moment so clearly. It was like jazz finally stopped feeling like this giant, overwhelming wall of sound and started making sense. I could hear the structure, I could follow the form, and the most beautiful part? That's when I started to love jazz. Before that, I respected it. But now I loved it. I remember the first time I played blues for Alice and Donna Lee, and I said to my professor, "That head sounds like a solo. Where's the melody?" I just couldn't hear it back then. But a few years later, I came back to those same tunes, and suddenly I could hear the brilliance. The chord tones landing perfectly on each change. The flow, the design, it was pure genius. Today, I honestly don't know how I didn't love those tunes right away. But that's how it works. Your ears evolve. Even something as basic as a G13 chord sounded weird to me in my first year when I started to play jazz blues. Now a plain G7 feels boring by comparison. For a systematic approach to jazz guitar, check out my Jazz Starter Packs. The link is in the video description or bio. So how can you practice selective listening yourself? Start with a song you enjoy. Put your phone on silent. That's really important. Sit down, relax, take your time. First, just listen to the melody. Focus. Are there embellishments, slides, hammer-ons, trills, bands, all those things that bring personality to the phrase? If there's a vocalist, even better, listen to their phrasing, their articulation. This gives you a quick idea of the song's soul, especially if you're learning a new tune. Then go back and listen for the drums. Listen for that hi-hat and on beats 2 and 4. It's subtle but crucial. Notice how the drummer uses the bass drum and snare not to hold the basic beat, but to throw in accents. The core rhythm is usually on the right cymbal, dung, 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 dung. Understanding that can help you keep time and follow the form, even when everything else sounds like chaos. Next, focus on the bass. You might think it's just walking quarter notes, but listen closer. You'll hear triplets, syncopation, little fills that bring the groove to life. It's way more nuanced than it seems. Then zero in on the piano or the comping instrument. This one was the hardest for me to figure out. Coming from funk and pop, I was used to clear rhythmic patterns, but jazz doesn't always give you that. I remember practicing with the old Jamie Aebersold play-alongs, and by the way, those are still around. And I pan my headphones to one side to hear the piano better. Eventually, I realized jazz rhythm lives in contrasts. One bar might be super sparse and the next packed with chord clusters. There's no single patterns, but there are tendencies, and I eventually narrowed it down to 4 basic comping rhythms that kept popping up, and I even made a video tutorial about that, which you can check out here on my channel. And when you start to hear all these layers separately, the melody, the drums, the bass, the comping, you're not overwhelmed anymore. You feel like you're inside the music instead of just staring at it from the outside. You can help to keep the free videos of this channel running by donating via the thanks button below the video, or become a paying member and enjoy perks. It might feel weird at first, but trust me, you'll start to hear things you've never noticed before. And over time, your playing, your appreciation, and your connection to the music will grow. Jazz is beautiful, but sometimes it just takes your ears a while to catch up. So do you have any advice for me or others? Please leave a comment. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you enjoyed this little story time, please give this video a fat thumbs up and subscribe. It's really important to help my channel grow.